Once upon a time, in a big town called Eket, there lived a girl named Amaka. She was very, very beautiful. Her skin looked like gold under the sun. Her face always shined like a mirror. Her nails were long and red like ripe cherries. Her hair was always new, always neat, always long. Amaka did not walk. She slayed. When she passed, people turned their heads. Boys opened their mouths. Girls whispered and rolled their eyes. They called her many names. Some said, "That's Slay Queen Amaka." Others called her the Queen of the Night. Why? Because Amaka loved the camera more than food. She wore short clothes that showed all her legs and more. Every day, she took pictures of her face, her waist, her shoes, her steps, and posted them on Facebook and TikTok. At night, she wore heels that clicked like claws. She danced in clubs till morning. Lights flashed. Music shook the walls. Amaka never missed a party. She would say with pride, "I can't suffer. I'm not a village girl. I was born to enjoy life." She didn't like the market. She didn't cook. She didn't wash. She didn't want any job. Her dream was to snap, post, enjoy, and shine forever. Amaka said, "I will never marry a poor man. I will never carry baby on my back. Children will spoil my body. Marriage will hold me like a rope. That life is not for me." She laughed at her old classmates who had husbands and babies. "See how fat they look, always wearing wrapper and tying scarf. They are now like aunties. Not me," she said, with her nose in the air. Her voice was loud, her laughter was sharp, and her pride was taller than a building. But deep inside her fine world, something was coming. She didn't know it yet. Nobody knew. But soon, the queen of the night will face a night she cannot slay. Amaka always opened her mouth wide and said what she believed. She said, "Giving birth is like a cage. You will be stuck and you cannot fly again." And again, she said, "Marriage is like a rope. It will tie your leg, your waist, your whole body. You will not be free." She didn't care who was listening. She laughed at her old friends who now wore baby carriers and wrappers. She said, "Look at them. Before they used to slay. Now they are just mamas, smelling of breast milk and sweat." To Amaka, being a wife or a mother was like going to prison. But once upon a time, Amaka did try marriage. She didn't plan to, but she met a man named Adam. He was rich, very rich. His car was black and shiny like rain on tar. His house had a gate that sang when it opened. His clothes smelled like flowers. Adam loved Amaka like she was the only star in the sky. He gave her money. He bought her clothes. He knelt down to beg her when she was angry. Amaka said, "This one is different. He worships the ground I walk on." So she married him. For a while, she smiled. For a while, her phone showed pictures of flowers, food, and flights. But one evening, while they were eating in silence, Adam said softly, "Babe, when are we going to have children?" Amaka dropped her spoon. She wiped her lips slowly. Then she looked him in the eye and said, "Never. I don't want babies. Not now. Not ever." Adam blinked. He smiled, but the smile was not real. The next day, he spoke less. The next week, he stopped laughing at her jokes. And then, one rainy night, while thunder was clapping and wind was blowing, Adam opened the door and threw her clothes outside. He pointed and said, "Go. I don't want a wife who hates children. You can go and slay on the street." Amaka stood in the rain, her clothes falling out of her bag. Her makeup was washing off her face like paint. She cried, but the tears dried quickly. Her voice came back. She wiped her face and said to herself, "No babies, never. I will never carry a child. Even if I get pregnant by mistake, I will remove it. Always. Her heart became harder. Her voice became sharper. She married again, then again, then again, 5 times. All ended the same way. Because the moment any man spoke about babies, Amaka said, I'm not your baby machine. Find someone else. And one by one, they left her. But she didn't care. She still wore her short dresses. She still danced with her heels. She still posted her face online and said, I'm free. I'm fine. I'm forever fresh. But a big twist was hiding around the corner. Something that money, beauty, or long nails could not stop. Amaka had been a wife 5 times. 5 different men. 5 shiny weddings. 5 sweet beginnings. But all 5 ended the same, like a movie that stops in the middle. Each time, the trouble started when they asked the same question. When are we going to have children? Amaka would stand up, fold her arms, and say, Children? For what? To spoil my shape, to make me old and tired, not me. Then the love would die, the man would leave, and Amaka would go back to her mirror, her music, her TikTok, and her lipstick. But one hot afternoon, while she was walking past a building site, a voice called out gently, Hello, fine woman. She turned. It was a man, not a man in a car, not a man with a gold chain, not a man with perfume. He was wearing an old shirt, dusty jeans, and his hands were full of cement. His face was dark from the sun. His feet were rough. But when he smiled, it was soft. His name was Efe. Efe was a bricklayer. He didn't have much, but he had strong hands and a clean heart. He built houses for people, but slept in a small room. He said to her, Amaka, I don't have money, but I like you. I want to marry you. Amaka looked at him like he was a joke. She turned her hand and looked at her nails. Then she looked back at Ife. She said, You marry me? Okay, but don't ever talk about babies. Don't dream it. Don't whisper it. I don't want them. Never. Ife nodded. He said, No wahala. I just want to be with you. That is enough for me. Amaka smiled. Not because of love, but because she thought, at least this one is simple. He will not stress me. And just like that, they started living together. She moved in with him. There was no big wedding, no camera, no lights, but there was peace. For a while, they cooked together, they laughed sometimes, they held hands when walking. But Amaka still painted her nails. She still danced on her phone, and she still said in her heart, no children, no matter what. But deep inside her body, something small was already growing, something she didn't plan, something she would never want. One morning, Amaka woke up and rushed to the toilet. She vomited. She washed her face, but the vomiting came again. Her head felt heavy like stone. Her legs were weak like soaked bread. Her eyes were swollen. Her skin looked pale. She thought it was just malaria. She went to the hospital. The nurse checked her. The doctor looked at her. Then the doctor said quietly, Madam, you are pregnant. The room became still. Amaka stood up. She shouted, God forbid! What are you saying? I don't want. Remove it now. I said, remove it. Her voice echoed like thunder in the hospital hall, but the doctor shook his head slowly. It is too late. If we remove it now, you may die. The pregnancy has stayed too long. You must carry it. Amaka's hands began to shake. Tears filled her eyes. She looked at the wall, looked at the floor, looked at her stomach. Why me? She whispered. I was careful. This can't be happening. But it was real. And so, 9 months passed, slow and heavy. Her belly grew like a balloon. Her back ached. She couldn't slay, she couldn't bend, she couldn't party. She hated everything. Then one night, her water broke. She screamed and was rushed to the hospital. Hours later, she gave birth. Not one baby, but two. Twins, a boy and a girl. The nurse smiled and said, "Congratulations, Mama. Double blessing." But Amaka did not smile. She looked at the babies and whispered their names like strangers. Chuka, Ada. Tears rolled down her cheeks, but they were not tears of joy. They were tears of fear, because her life was about to change forever. Everything changed the day Chuka and Ada were born. The house that used to be quiet now sounded like a market. Crying in the morning, crying in the night, crying in the afternoon, crying that never ended. Amaka could not sleep. She could not paint her nails. She could not fix her hair. She could not even rest her eyes without one baby screaming. The pampers finished too fast. The baby food was too expensive. The feeding bottles always needed washing. And her clothes, once shiny and clean, now had milk stains and baby spit. Her fine mirror had dust. Her makeup bag was dry. Her party shoes stayed inside the box like forgotten toys. Every day felt like a punishment. She would look at her babies and sigh deeply. Her eyes had no spark. Her waist had grown wide. Her once smooth hands now felt rough. Then the mocking began. Her friends on Facebook saw her new photos. No filters, no heels, no slay. They laughed behind her back. Some sent messages like knives. "So Slay Queen is now a baby mama. See how you look. You no longer shine old. This is what children do to fine girls. I pity you." Some even posted old pictures of her before the twins with captions like, "From queen to housemaid, life is funny." Amaka saw everything. Her heart burned. Her pride fell like a broken plate. She couldn't take it anymore. One night, while the twins were crying and Efe was trying to mix their pap, Amaka sat on the edge of the bed. Her eyes were red. Her chest was rising fast. Then she said sharply, "Ife, I didn't sign up for this life. I told you from the beginning. I don't want children. I don't want the stress. I don't want to live like this." Ife turned slowly. He looked at her, but he said nothing, because deep inside, he already knew something bad was coming. One quiet morning, the sky was gray, the wind was slow, but something in the air felt strange. Efe woke up early, as usual. The babies were still sleeping. He looked beside him on the bed. Amaka was not there. He stood up. He checked the bathroom. Empty. He checked the kitchen. Empty. He called out softly, "Amaka?" No answer. Then he saw the table. There was a paper on it. Folded. Flat. Still. He picked it up with shaky hands. The note said, "I can't do this anymore. Take care of your babies. I'm gone. Please don't look for me." Efe froze. His heart stopped for a second. Then it started beating fast. His hand dropped to his side. The paper fell to the floor. He rushed to the wardrobe. Her clothes were gone. Her shoes were gone. Her bag was gone. Only the scent of her perfume was left, floating like a ghost in the room. Eve sat down on the floor. He held his head. Tears fell like rain, but he didn't make a sound. Then, wah! One baby started crying. Then the other one joined, loud, hungry, wet. Ife wiped his face. He stood up. He picked up Ada, then Chuka. He said nothing. He didn't shout. He just carried them close to his chest. "I'm here," he whispered. "Daddy is here." Because even though Amaka was gone, the babies were still there, and they needed him. Life did not stop. The sun still rose. The babies still cried. And Ife, heartbroken and tired, stood like a tree that refused to fall. Every morning, he woke up before the sky turned blue. He tied Ada on his back with wrapper. He held Chuka with one hand. He used the other hand to stir hot pap on the fire. He bathed them one by one. He dressed them slowly. He kissed their foreheads. "You will be great," he told them. "Even if your mother ran away, I will not leave you." Then he carried both of them to daycare. The woman there was kind. At first, Eve would drop the twins and rush to work. He mixed cement. He carried blocks. His hands were full of blisters. His shirts were always wet from sweat. But he didn't complain. He worked hard, very hard, just to buy Pampers, just to buy pap, just to pay daycare. But one morning, when he came to drop them, the woman stood at the gate. She said softly, "Eve, I'm sorry. You haven't paid for 1 month. This place is a daycare, not a charity." Eve's eyes begged her. His lips trembled. "Please, give me time. Just 2 more weeks." But she shook her head. "I'm sorry. I have bills too. I can't keep them anymore." Eve stood there, frozen. Chuka was sleeping in his arms. Ada was chewing on her finger. The sun was rising fast. He said thank you and walked away. That day, he didn't go home. He carried the twins to the site. He found a big mango tree near the corner. He spread a wrapper under it. He placed Chuka and Ada gently. He gave them a bottle of water. He gave them small toys. Then he stood up and went to mix cement. Every 10 minutes, he looked back. If the sun came too close, he ran and moved them into the shade. If they cried, he wiped their faces with his shirt. If they slept, he smiled like someone who just found gold. The other workers watched him. Some laughed, some shook their heads, but Efe didn't care. He had cement in one hand and love in the other, because even if life was hard, he was harder. The sun in Eket did not play. It rose like fire and sat on people's heads. At the building site, the ground was hot. The blocks were hot. Even the air felt heavy. But under that mango tree, 2 small babies lay quietly, Chuka and Ada. Their skin was soft. Their eyes were bright. But the sun didn't care. So Efe worked with one eye on his shovel and the other eye on his children. When the sun shifted and came close, he dropped his tools. He ran to them. He took a folded newspaper and fanned them. He poured water in a bowl and wiped their faces. He held them in his arms until they stopped crying. But it was not easy. Some days they were sick. Some days they cried all through. Some days he had no one to help. So Efe started knocking on doors. He went to a kind auntie next door. She sold food by the roadside. He said, "Please, can you help me watch them for a few hours?" Sometimes she said yes. Sometimes she was too busy. Other days, he carried them to one old mama near their compound. She was slow, but her heart was big. She tied Ada on her back and rocked Chuka in her arms. She called them my grandchildren. She sang for them, told them stories, and wiped their tears with her wrapper. Still, Efe did not rest. Even when his legs shook, even when his eyes were red, even when he had no money left in his pocket, he never gave up. He came home with cement in his hair and love in his hands. He would boil water, cook pap, and feed them. Then he would sit on the floor with his back against the wall and sleep with one baby on his chest and the other on his lap. Because in the world of Efe, no matter how hard life was, his children would never suffer. Time moved like wind. The twins, Chuka and Ada, were no longer babies. Their legs were strong. Their teeth had grown. They could talk. They could laugh. They could help their daddy wash plates. Chuka liked to count everything. He counted stones. He counted steps. He even counted the birds in the sky. Ada liked books. She followed letters with her finger. She read signs on the road. She asked, "Daddy, what does this word mean?" They always sat together. They always played together. They never fought. If Chuka had food, he shared with Ada. If Ada had water, she gave Chuka first. They were like moon and stars, never apart. Efe watched them and smiled. He said, "God, thank you for giving me these children. They are my joy." Every day after work, he dropped small coins into a tin can. He saved like a man building a bridge with spoons. And then, one morning, when the twins turned 6, he held their hands and said, "Today, we are going to school." Chuka clapped. Ada danced. Ife bathed them with care. He dressed them in clean clothes. He rubbed small powder on their necks. Then he carried them to a small school nearby. The gate was wide. The walls were yellow. Children's voices filled the air like sweet music. Efe met the headmistress. She wore glasses and had kind eyes. He said, "Madam, I don't have much, but I will pay small. Please help me. These children are all I have." The headmistress looked at Chuka. She looked at Ada. Their clothes were clean. Their hair was neat. Their eyes were bright. She smiled. "Bring them tomorrow. We will start." Eve almost knelt down. He held her hands and said, "Thank you. Thank you." That night, he cooked their favorite food. He told them stories. He kissed their heads. Because tomorrow, they would enter a new world. School became their second home. Books became their best friends. And learning was their new game. Every night, after eating dinner, Chuka and Ada brought out their books. Chuka loved numbers. He said, "I want to build bridges and fix roads." Ada loved science. She said, "I want to be a doctor. I want to help sick people." They read with candles when there was no light. They used rulers to draw lines. They asked questions. They even helped each other understand hard topics. While other children played rough games, Chuka and Ada stayed under the mango tree, reading. On Saturdays, when their classmates rested, they did not. They helped Ife in the morning. They fetched water. They washed clothes. They swept the compound. Then they took a tray of bread and walked through the streets, selling it. "Soft bread, fresh bread," they shouted, their voices dancing through the air. People bought from them, not just because the bread was good, but because of their manners. They smiled. They said thank you. They counted change without mistake. Eve was proud. He would say, "See how well they are growing. One day, they will become great people." And truly, they did not disappoint. After years of reading and working hard, Chuka and Ada finished primary school. They passed their exams well. Then they entered secondary school. The new school was bigger. The books were harder. But they did not stop. They stayed focused like eagles chasing the wind. Their teacher saw something special in them. One teacher said, "Chuka solves maths faster than me." Another said, "Ada's essays make me cry. She writes like someone who has lived 1,000 years." They wore the same old shoes. They used the same school bags. But their minds were rich and their hearts were strong because inside them, big dreams were growing. Dreams bigger than pain, bigger than hunger, and bigger than the past. Years passed like pages in a book. Soon, Chuka and Ada were in SS3, the final class, the last stop before university. By now, they had become stars in their school. Chuka was always first in mathematics. Ada always came top in English and biology. They never joked with their books. Even during break time, they sat under a tree, reading. Even when others laughed at them, they didn't stop. At home, they still helped Ife. They still sold bread on Saturdays. They still washed their clothes by hand. But at school, they shined like the morning sun. When it was time for their final exam, the whole school watched. Everyone knew they were special. And when the results came out, Chuka was number one in the whole school. Ada was number two. The hall was full. Teachers clapped, students clapped, even the principal clapped. These children are a gift, he said. They are not just smart, they are humble, they are kind, they are rare. Eve was called to the school. He wore his best shirt, the one with a missing button. He didn't know why he was called, but when he arrived, something big happened. A man in a fine suit stood beside the principal. He was from the government. He had seen the results. He had heard their story. He shook Eve's hand and said, "Sir, your children are very smart. We are giving them a scholarship. They will go to university. You don't need to pay anything, not a penny." Efe opened his mouth. No words came out. Tears filled his eyes. They fell like rain on dry sand. He bent his head and whispered, "Thank you, God. I am just a bricklayer, but you gave me gold." The whole school watched him cry. But they were not sad tears. They were tears of joy. Tears of a father who did not give up. And that day, the world saw what love, hard work, and hope can do. After that day, Ife's name changed. No one called him Ife the bricklayer anymore. They called him Papa Twins. Old men greeted him with respect. Young boys looked at him with wide eyes. Mothers pointed him out to their children and said, "Look at that man. If Ife can do it with no wife and no money, what is your excuse?" People used to laugh at him. Now they clapped when he passed. Even the woman who once chased him from daycare now greeted him with a soft smile. "You tried, Papa Twins," she said. "You are a real father." And Ife? He didn't walk with his head low anymore. He stood tall, not because of money, but because of pride, the kind that grows from love. At home, Chuka and Ada were still the same. They didn't grow proud. They didn't chase big things. They still fetched water. They still helped Papa sell bread when they could. They still read their books every night. Their scholarship was not just in Africa, it was abroad. In the United States of America, they were going to fly on a plane. Their dreams were about to stretch their wings. Ife cleaned their boxes with his own hands. He folded their clothes with care. He looked at their passports over and over, as if the pages could talk. The night before their flight, he sat outside with them under the stars. "My children," he said, "go and shine. But don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you came from. And don't forget that your father loves you." Ada hugged him tightly. Chuka wiped his eyes. And the next morning, when the plane took off, Papa Twin stood at the airport gate, watching the sky, smiling through his tears. The plane flew high above the clouds, carrying two dreams across the sky. Chuka and Ada landed in a new country. The air was cold. The people spoke fast. The food was strange. But they were not afraid. They remembered what Eve told them. Go and shine. And that's what they did. Chuka entered the engineering school. He studied bridges, roads, machines. He built models that moved. He solved maths that others failed. His teachers called him a genius. Ada entered the medical school. She wore white coats. She learned how to treat people. She studied bones and blood. She read day and night. Sometimes they felt tired. Sometimes they missed home. But they never stopped. They worked hard. just like Papa taught them. Years passed. They finished their courses. They wore graduation gowns. They held certificates in their hands. People clapped. Cameras flashed. But in their hearts, they heard only one voice. Well done, my children. Papa twins. They flew back to Nigeria. The sun welcomed them. The wind felt warm again. Chuka became an engineer. He started building real roads and big houses. His hands now carried plans, not cement. Ada became a doctor. She wore a white coat with her name on it. She helped sick people. She gave hope to mothers and healed small children. They had made it. They had come full circle. But one more chapter still waited. One shadow from the past was coming back. The sun was going down. The wind was quiet. Birds were flying home. It was a peaceful evening. Chuka and Ada sat in the compound. Ada was reading a book. Chuka was checking building plans. Efe was watering the small flowers by the gate. Then a voice came from outside. Please, I want to see my children. The voice was dry like old paper, weak like a tired wind. They turned and looked. A woman stood at the gate. Her hair was rough. Her dress was torn at the edges. Her slippers were worn out. Her phone had cracks like spider web. She held the gate with shaky hands. Please, she said again, I want to see my children. Chuka blinked. Ada stood up slowly. They looked at each other. Then Ada turned to Aoife and asked, Daddy, who is this woman? Aoife looked at the woman for a long time. He didn't rush. He didn't speak fast. He looked at her dry face, her tired eyes, her empty hands. Then he looked at his children, Chuka, Ada, the ones he carried with cement on his clothes, the ones he raised with blistered hands. And with a quiet voice, he said, just someone from the past. Let's go inside. They nodded. They turned around. The gate closed slowly. The woman stood there. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just looked at the closed gate, and the sky grew darker. That night, the house was quiet. The breeze passed through the windows gently. The moon sat high like a silent judge. Chuka and Ada sat on the floor beside Aoife. They looked serious. Their voices were low. Daddy, Ada said. Who was that woman? Eve sighed. He looked at the faces. Faces he had wiped when they cried. Faces he had carried when they were too small to walk. Then he said slowly, that woman was your mother. Silence filled the room. Even the clock on the wall seemed to stop. Chuka's eyes grew small. Ada's mouth opened, but no words came out. She left you, Eve said. When you were still babies, she said she couldn't do it anymore, and she walked away. Ada lowered her head. Chuka clenched his fist. They were quiet for a long time. Then Ada said, we don't hate her, but we don't want to see her. Chuka nodded. She left. She didn't come back when we needed her. Now it's too late. The next morning, they sent a servant to the gate. He gave the woman a small brown envelope. Inside, there was money, but no words, no letter, no hug, no second chance. And a message followed. We wish you well, but don't come back again. Amaka sat under a big tree not far from the gate. She opened the envelope. She saw the money, but her hands shook. She didn't smile. She didn't count it. She looked at the house, the big house she never helped to build, the children she never raised, the life she ran away from, and tears poured down her face, heavy, hot, slow. She covered her face and cried. If only I could go back, she whispered. If only I had stayed. But time did not wait. It had moved on, and the door she once walked away from would never open for her again. The queen of the night was now just a shadow in the sun, and her crown had fallen too far to be picked. I hope you enjoyed the story. If so, please like the video, comment what you learned from the tale, share with friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more African folk tales just like this one. Thank you.